Yes, Alexandra, a lot has happened since we spoke. How long would you say it's been since we spoke?
Probably a year.
About a year. Yeah. I think a year, maybe even 14 months or 15 months.
Definitely, definitely. I know you have grown in leaps and bounds.
Really?
Yes, you are definitely, you're a changed man.
Oh, so nice. You see that?
Oh, I see that, of course.
Oh, wow. So fascinating. I love your posts. I love
Thank,
your messages. I love your feminine energy. It's so wonderful.
thank you, thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. It's so
Yeah.
great. It's so great to see you again and have a chance to share some time with you again.
Yes, and to see what's been moving and because as you know, this path is so deeply personal and I feel at least for me, I don't feel I make any decisions about the path, but rather the path takes me all the time.
Unfolds,
Yes,
unfolding.
definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. And I saw on your page you talking about retreats. You manage retreats?
Yes, we're running a lot of retreats, especially for next year. There's a lot in planning. So we work with different people and we run our own retreats, but then we also collaborate with other people. So we're looking at doing, combining detoxification, cellular detoxification with deep sexual healing and detoxing your sexuality. So it's really about stripping down everything.
I love it. Do,
And
sexual healing?
yes, so sexual healing, on one hand, we've got something that we're planning with a beautiful Tantra teacher, Lily Love. And I just love her energy. She is just such a beautiful, light heart. And with her, we're planning something around, specifically for women to just really detox all of our conditioning around sexuality. I feel there is so much misinformation, so much indoctrination around what our sexuality should be and should look like, should feel like, how it should be expressed. And we forget to completely connect to, well, what is it when we come to it from our true authentic nature and not from a projected desire that is so often again imposed by the patriarchal society, you know and what is it in its spontaneous expression, spontaneous and authentic and vulnerable childlike expression. And that is really what I always seek to come back to, this simplicity that just is, without any construction, which is what we tend to do as we grow up and we want to be something instead of just being what we are in our true nature.
Allowing our sexual nature to unfold and be what it naturally should be, as we should, returning to our natural food, returning to our natural movement and contact with the earth and in contact with the sunlight and getting into what is most natural. We need to get back into the circadian rhythm of our sexuality, and our sexual energy
Yes,
is most is our most personal expression,
absolutely, absolutely. It is
right?
such a unique blueprint, and that's why when people talk about even this whole movement around the goddess and which is kind of like it again wants to subtly imprint a way of being that does not represent everybody, because it's so individual. So we always want to kind of like, we want to be the same, and we want to follow this image of what does a goddess look like, feel like, act like, dress, you know. And it's like, no, what does your God look like? What is your king, queen? What is your internal light being, spontaneous being? You know, sometimes even all this light language is like, what are you in your nature? And can you express that authentically, vulnerably? Because that is where the real maturation happens. You know, I think a lot of times we want to be something instead of being what we are and trusting that that is utterly perfect.
I am enough. I am enough. There is enough within me to sustain and create and provide all that I have to in my world, in my life. And I can get out of this mainstream illusion of what I need to be sexy, what I need to do to be sexual, what I need to do to satisfy my husband or satisfy my wife or satisfy my family or satisfy anybody else in society. That I am enough as I am, and I don't need to get anything more or be anything more than I am.
Absolutely. And even just tapping into what actually authentically lights me up and produces or activates this energy that we call sexual energy, you know, which ultimately is just pure life force. When we feel the life force flowing through, that is the eros of life that flows through us, and it flows through us in different ways. It activates in us in different ways, and it doesn't always have to look like something sexual from the outside, right? I mean, it can come from anything. It can come from our connection with nature. It can come from our connection to our breath, you know, wherever it comes from. And so on one hand, you know, we're looking at doing that kind of work of just really combining the physical detoxification, which, as you also know, when we open up physically, we automatically open up emotionally. We access deeper levels of emotional authenticity that previously we can't really access because we're so clogged up. And then on the other hand, we are also looking at doing real deep trauma work in a intensive retreat setting, which will be more a 10-day retreat, a 10-day deep dive with Michael and Freya Inanna they live in Costa Rica, and they're an amazing couple with the most amazing personal transformation story, really, of Freya. And I've been following them for a while, and I just love their work because it's potent, it's real, it's authentic. And you know, I like to work with people that it's not about what have you learned, but what do you know from your own experience? You know, what have you actually alchemized and transformed in your own being, and what are you authentically living? Because anything else, you know, is kind of not really interesting to me at this stage. It's what is real, what is simple, what is authentic. And yeah, so those are the kind of, you know, the work that we're doing on the sexual front, because we feel it's so important. But then of course there's also, you know, just the simply coming together and experiencing in the retreat space, what does this lifestyle look like, feel like, and how does it, and almost when the focus is not so much on the act of detox, but when detox is just what we do as a lifestyle, and how do we live in day-to-day life? You know, like, what does this new naturalness look like, feel like? How does it express itself in relationship? Because it is, as you also know, it's a whole new way of being. It's a whole new reality.
Yes, and it changes your relationships with all aspects of your life. It changes your relationship with your partner, with your
Yeah.
sexuality, with your emotional self, with your relationship with yourself, with your
Mm.
relationship, with your work, with your future, with what you want to create in your life. It changes where you want to go and what you want to do and who you want to be. So this detoxification process, this alkalization process, this oxygenation process, this re-energetic process where we're bringing ourselves back to that deep root energy within ourselves, and we're expressing that energy out into our life. Well, everything in our world's going to be changing, and we have to be kind of ready and prepared for what we want that to be. We need to start communicating about what we want that to be. We need to start saying and thinking about what we want that to be. We need to envision that. We need to get a vision in our mind. We have to have clear vision in our mind of what we want to create.
So yeah, I'd love to hear actually from you, because I know that when we spoke, 14 months ago, whenever it was, you've grown so much in this time. I've been witnessing your journey and following your journey. And so I would love to hear from you, because I do feel there aren't too many people also that are really talking about the depth of the personal transformation that, because the physical is what we see. And for many, that's a nice kind of carrot to dangle in front of them, because we all like to be healthy and vibrant and radiant. But to me, that's kind of just the nice plus, because the depth is really in the personal transformation that happens.
Yes. And you know what? So much has happened for me as I've moved through the detoxification process. And, it goes in stages. And, we start at one stage, and as we evolve, we've got to move forward. I think this is a big one, is I think a lot of people get stuck staying at one point, like, oh, I stopped eating meat, or I stopped eating red meat, or I stopped eating chicken. Oh, I did that. Well, it's not that we need to just do that. It's that we need to do that and then move on to the next thing that kind of comes in front of us. We have to constantly kind of evolve and watch and listen and grow as new information is provided to us and for us, right? Because this
Absolutely.
is an evolution of ourselves. It's a growing up of ourselves, right?
Totally. It's a maturation process, which I so love. There's a beautiful man called Stuart Sovatsky who writes about this. He's also a tantric teacher and a psychologist, and he has worked for many years as a marriage counselor, very well known in America and in California and so forth. And he's written an incredible book called Advanced Spiritual Intimacy. And in this book, which initially is quite hard to get into, but what he describes there is that, we in the Freudian sort of the sexuality that is centered around the genitals, which is what most people know, that is where it starts. And that is where it ends for most people. It starts with the genitals, it ends with the genitals, and it starts with puberty, and you kind of, whatever, around 18, 21 or whatever, you're done growing up into a man, and then boom, you're a man, as if after that nothing else happens. Whereas the actual maturation process begins with puberty and hitting adulthood. But then, nobody really acknowledges that our whole life is a series of internal, when we do it correctly, when we are aware, it's a continual internal seed, what Stuart Sovatsky called seed maturation. And that is the activation of the chakras, that as we activate our electric light body and we come to our real life, Because as you know, we are not alive until we come alive into our embodied selves, right?
I love that. So as we, take actions that raise up our vibration and raise up our energy, different chakras open, and our sexuality actually grows further
Yes,
than just being in the genital region. And we can kind of maybe hopefully grow beyond the illusion that the maximum joy of sexuality is ejaculation and
yes,
release of our sexual energy.
yes, yes. Because for most people, that is it.
That's what we're striving for.
Yes,
We got to get the nice car and the nice house so we can get the nice wife in the bed.
totally. And then you've done, then you've arrived. Whereas, and where I first heard this was from Stuart Savatsky, from his book, is that did you know that the heart can come? Did you know that your throat can come?
Oh my gosh.
Did you know that your eyes can come?
Your third eye.
Your third eye, your crown chakra, and so forth. So, I mean, it's infinite, infinite. You know, we can come and come and come. And what is this coming? What is the coming? It's like when we come, so often, you know, the most used expression is what? Is, oh God. So we become God.
Look at that. How wonderful is that?
I know, isn't it? I mean, I cried buckets. When I read that book, I cried buckets because I was like, yes, there it is, you know, this awakening of that is what we look for in our sexuality. That is why sex is so mesmerizing and interesting to everybody. And we look and we look and we look and we desire it and we crave it. And, you know, but actually, what are we looking for? We're looking for God.
And when we have the masculine and the feminine and we come together, we have duality. The human experience is male and female. And when these two bodies come together in loving intimacy and loving connection, that both powers, male and female, are there and present. And in that unity, we can find the ultimate
Mm-hmm.
expression of ourselves, of human life, of existence, of love of ourselves, the energy of our dimension, loving energy of our dimension. We can come into union with it. We can be like God, because God is both the masculine and the feminine. Duality, the two sides coming together, the oneness is God, is God,
Yes,
whatever God is. But that's a unification of both ends of what we have here in our paradigm. And the man and woman get that together.
absolutely. Yes. Or the male female polarity.
Energies,
Yeah,
yes,
in a potential, you know, same sex couple, but
absolutely.
yes, it is that polarity, and ultimately it's transcending our individuality, our identity. It's dissolution and coming into union with totality, right? It's merging into the totality and forgetting who is I and becoming the we.
Nice. Nice. The collective, the collective. When we're
Yeah.
in the collective, we're in the space of God. We're all breathing for God. We are the consciousness. We
Yes,
are the God's expression of
we
God.
are.
the expression of
Yes,
God.
yes.
Yes,
And
yes,
so the more that we are cleaning out our bodies and freeing our bodies of obstruction, it's simply the more we can hold this energy and the more of it we can hold, because as we know, it is infinite.
and we can only connect with our little piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
We're a part of it. But it's so much more vast than just us.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So you know what? I want to explore that Tantra. You know, you said that a little bit more. I'm loving that. I want to talk about maybe Kundalini.
Yeah.
Does Kundalini fit in here for you? Because, you know, we always talk about that. I always hear about that Kundalini energy coming up your spine, trying to connect with that deep Kundalini energy, trying to lift that energy. You know, where does emotional blocks, you know, talking to your emotional blocks, we all have suppressed energies, shadow energies, suppressed energies, dark energies, parts of our psyche, parts of ourselves that we've hidden down because they're not good, or they're not right, or they're bad, or we're not supposed to have those feelings. You know, all these parts of the human that kind of get trapped down in our hips and our pelvis and our lower back and our digestive system, I believe. And
Absolutely.
so much is stuck down there because it's been told it's just not right. You know, where does the link happen there? The emotional link, the Kundalini link, the energy link. And then I also want to explore Candida yeast parasite. And if we can come to bring that into this picture as well too, as we move forward here.
Definitely. Well, it's as always, everything is interlinked. And that is the piece that for me is always so fascinating on this detoxification journey, also because of my own personal experience. So what I've witnessed is that, you know, I feel in many ways my detox journey was fairly slow because of my deep emotional woundings that I was carrying in my lymphatic system. So, for example, the lymph system is interlinked with our vulnerability, because the lymphatic system is where the waters flow, it's the fluids. And the water is the seat of our emotions and therefore our vulnerability. And, you know, that's where in many ways, like, I'm the expert because of my own experience of holding on to so much emotion, so much shame, so much guilt, so much fear. And my lymphatic system and obviously autonomic nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system, was all holding on. So my whole body was constantly holding. And because of the emotional stagnation and the nervous system being blocked from a very young age, which obviously happens for most people, you know, the woundings happen before the age of 7. And so the stagnation in the lymphatic system was making my body even more acidic than had I not had the emotional trauma. Like, of course, my diet before detoxing was not perfect, but the biggest contribution, in a sense, to my health issues besides the food was simply the emotional trauma and the emotional toxicity that I was holding on to. And as I started bringing energy into my system and moving this stagnant energy, giving it movement through Kundalini yoga and breath work, I started feeling and reconnecting with all this stagnant emotion that was there. And then by really going and looking and feeling into the body, as I dislodged the guilt, the shame, the trauma, I also witnessed how the physical detoxification would start happening.
And you talked about something there that I think is really important. Well, obviously the emotional energies. You talked about the Kundalini yoga, and you talked about the breath work, because these are key elements of releasing that energy and bringing it up. But, I don't want to rule out, just, exercise in general, walking or jogging, or,
Absolutely.
you said breath work. So absolutely breath work, because, we're moving prana. Energy is prana. Chi is prana, energy of the universe, the loving energy that's within us. We're trying to connect to that energy and move that energy through us freely. And we want that emotional energy to become dislodged and moving freely as well too. We've suppressed it. We've held it down in our digestive system, in our hips and our lower back. We've shoved it down, and we've forbidden it to come up. And we have to now invite it, I think, as well too. We've got to speak to it. We've got to begin to have a relationship with it. This shadow side of ourselves, this suppressed side of ourselves. We've got to speak to it. We've got to, it's afraid. It's a baby child in there. Think of it as a tiny child that got scared of something, and it's locked itself away in a little box in part of you, whether it's in your lower back or your hip or your stomach or your lymphatic system, and it's there, that energy, and it's caught there. And you've got to speak to it, and you've got to coax it, and you've got to invite it, and you've got to make it feel comfortable to come up and be seen, and
That's right.
and show itself again.
Which, of course, initially, is kind of, it's weird. It sounds weird. It's like, really? Well, I'm just trying to heal my body, and like it's
or I just want to lose weight, or I just want to.
And in many ways, I feel that has been my biggest learning, and part of why maybe my journey has been relatively slow on some level, is because it took me a long time to kind of like really make the connection and take that connection seriously, because my mind kept wanting to escape the fact that, no, you actually have to come home to the body. You have to listen to this body. You have to become the servant of the body, even, whereas the mind wants to just kind of do its own thing and run away with its ideas. And it's like, no, but the body knows. The body speaks to you. The body has the wisdom.
We have to get present.
Yeah.
We have to be present with the body, with the moment. The presence is so important. That is a humongous part of loving the self.
Yes.
Is becoming present with the self, right? So knowing the self, I am energy, I am love, I am infinite, I am good, I am bad, accepting all of me, inviting all of me to rise up, to lift up, to come up, to make myself, to let me see, to let all of my shadow being be seen, be brought to the light, to be lifted up and seen, and then spending time with it, sitting with it, being present with it, feeling it, breathing with it, sitting in that fear, sitting in that sadness, sitting in that anger, that frustration, that negative suppressed energy, and then sitting in it and then saying, hey, you know what? I'm in it, I'm feeling it, I'm thinking about it, and I'm not dead. It's not going to kill me.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to mean anything, because that's the other part, you know, is we always, like, even this whole shadow, and it's like, well, it's just, there's dark and there's light. And
Duality. There's
yeah,
both.
and neither is good or bad. You know, it's not like day is good and night is bad. It's like, it just is. And when we come into that deep acceptance, I mean, that is where, you know, and I'm sure you can agree, this whole path leads to such deep compassion for our human condition. And at the same time, it opens us up to the miracle that this life is. So I find it's like, it's again both. It's like, on one hand, the heart aches and breaks repeatedly for our deepest humanity. And on the other hand, it's like, wow, what we are capable of as human beings, what we are capable of experiencing, even the fact that we can experience our darkest darkness, our deepest pain, and yet we can experience the highest elation where our whole body can ripple in ecstatic expression without even being touched with a finger. I mean, wow. Like, that alone is wow.
Yes, we have to come back to awe of our experience. Like, we have to be childlike, right? We hear that a lot all the time. We have to watch our children. We have to see how they play. They're just up in, you know, a constant observance of what they're doing. They're playing with the water. They're playing with a ball. You know, the simplest thing is satisfying them. We need to be the same. We need to find the miracle, the magic that's right here in this present moment. And we can do that if we slow ourselves down to the breath, if we come down to the breath, if we bring it down to what is most important. In any given moment, it's the breath that we actually need. Although we think we need to do this and we need to do that, or this has happened and we're reacting to it. So we're not present.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as we're never present, we can never create a different outcome until we get present. So we've got to be, you know, able to sit with that fear and sorrow and anger and joy, and not be too attached or identified with either one, good or bad. Just in it, like two lovers experiencing the love together.
Yes. Yeah, and those are all, I mean, it's so simple, but those are the hardest lessons in many ways.
And for me, what I've found is that food is an enormous obstacle for a great deal of, you know, what's happening in our life. Like, I mean, we're so consumed with going to the grocery store, making the money to get them to go to the grocery store, what we're going to eat when we get to the grocery store, you know, choosing the right foods, preparing the meal, preparing multiple meals for the day, packing it, carrying it with us. There's so much involved with the food, financially, emotionally, psychologically, and physically, in the form of time, that, you know,
Absolutely.
so much of the human experience is wrapped around food. And it's the very first idea that we kind of learn that we need to eat. I don't know what thought we think before that. I don't know what
Yeah.
thought we learn before that. It could be
Yes.
the very first thought that we learn.
Yes. True.
And if that's the very first thought, if we put anything else on top of it, if the first thought is wrong, then the ones that come on top of it will be
Yes.
will be wrong magnified.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
So
I love that.
I really like people to challenge their need and requirements for food, because in the
Yeah.
unraveling of that, in the process of challenging what you think you need with regards to food, you will find all of the things that you are.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the biggest irony in many ways, you know, and it's I always say the truth is always in the paradox, you know, and that everything is actually it's so utterly simple, but we first have to make it so complicated. And that's where I look at medicine, you know, what we call modern day medicine,
Allopathic medicine.
allopathic medicine, and a lot of alternative medicine as well, which is so complex. I mean, the complexity is mind
The
boggling.
science and explanation and all this
It's never ending.
information that this leads to that and that explains this.
A lifetime would not be enough for one human to be able to know all of science and medicine and supplements. A lifetime would never be enough. And yet, we can dismiss all of that and we can simply learn by experience how simply the body works, how simply the body heals. And then you can simply let go of all of that.
And come back to your very best self,
Yes.
the very best version of yourself, and
Yes.
you can do it naturally.
Absolutely. Almost no matter how far gone you are.
We can almost always heal ourselves.
And for me, I guess that sums up, it's almost like, well, what is it that you wish everybody would know? It's that. You know, the fact that no matter how far gone you potentially are and think you are, you can. Doesn't mean that that's what you must do. And it doesn't mean also, and I think this is an important point that while I'm at it, I want to make, the fact that, you know, I'm not against medicine, because a lot of people, you know, oh, you're against medicine, how dare you? No, I'm not against medicine. I'm against making medicine the God.
Science is the biggest religion on the planet right now.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. And so I don't have a problem if somebody decides, you know what, because the reality is this path that we are living is not for everybody.
No.
It doesn't make us better. It doesn't make us more advanced. It's a choice. You know, just like mountain climbing isn't for everybody either, or, you know, whatever. Shark diving isn't for everybody. And so this path, for me, it's about letting people know that it is a possibility, and it is a very valid possibility when maybe you've exhausted everything else. Because for many people, it's like, you know, they can get by with other methods. And I always like to say, had I not been dragged by the hair, you know, to this, I wouldn't have given up my beloved almond croissants. Truthfully speaking.
Isn't it the truth? I had no intentions of stopping my meat and stopping my rice and potatoes and pasta.
Why would you?
No, I had no desire or wish to do that.
Exactly.
No, I was thrust into that, and it evolved in front of me as I was asking for some guidance about pain in my body,
Mhm.
digestive problems, sleep problems, emotional issues,
Mhm.
reoccurring chaos in my life, um,
Yeah.
a body weight that was creeping up. The list of things that kind of ailments that were kind of going on and on and on in my life were just minuscule little things that just didn't make sense, but you kind of always knew that there was some connected reason for all of it. And I had to understand, what's the connection, and I also had to make sense of how I was a role in that, because I really believe that responsibility is an enormous aspect of the healing process. We
Huge.
must take responsibility
Yeah,
for all that we're creating in our life.
absolutely. Even when we didn't know any better, because, the truth is we didn't know any better. But that doesn't exempt you from responsibility. You know, it's like, well, tough shit, you didn't know any better, but you still have to take responsibility for it. And I think that is
Right.
so hard. I mean, I know it was for me also, I mean, that's the hardest thing, to have to take full responsibility for every single ounce of pain that you experience in your life. Pain and suffering, everything is your responsibility, as well as all the joy and all the bliss, all of it.
And it's really important that, all of that pain is also looked at and viewed along with all of that beauty and joy that's there as well too. And you've got to see that beauty and joy and bliss that you have in your life, all those gifts that you have in your life, are as much a part of your life as that pain is.
Absolutely, yes.
That all of that totality is your life.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and that pain is there because that is the very thing, as again, you and I would not be here living this level of health that has been revealed to us, that we could maybe fathom, but we couldn't really even imagine it, if we hadn't been through the pain. So the pain is what propelled us. By leaning into the pain, we got to this.
so thank goodness for that pain.
Thank goodness.
Thank
Absolutely.
goodness for that pain, whether it's physical or
Mm-hmm.
emotional or psychological, whatever that pain is that you have, can you find the gratitude
Mm-hmm.
for what you've been given? Can you
Yes.
can you sit with that? Can you see that that's not so bad at
Yeah.
all?
Yeah. That there's a gift. There's always a gift. I think we spoke about that even in our first conversation, where I said, like, be a gold digger, as in go look for the gold in the shit, because it's always there.
The gold is always there. We just have to dig and find it.
Yes. Which
Yes.
then, to me, changes the whole experience. And that for me was really monumental, because when I realized that, then as I was detoxing and going through my healing crisis, instead of being frightened by the healing crisis, by the pain and the suffering and the discomfort, I got excited. It became a sign that it's time to get excited. You know, instead of like, oh, another, or no, it's like, whoa, okay, I'm going to ride through this knowing that there is gold here. And so let me really feel into the gold of this moment instead of wanting to just quickly be done with it, you know, which is typically what we do with uncomfortable situations, with pain. It's like, okay, just somebody take it away from me, or just, you know, let me quickly resolve it, instead of like, no, savor it.
Be present with it. Get into the moment. Focus on the breath. Sit in it. Breathe it in. Feel it. Be with it. Be present with it. The pain, the joy.
Yeah.
The sadness, the sorrow, the frustration. Be with it. But then also in the mind, seeing something else that you would like to manifest other than this, because you've created this.
Yes.
Accept it, feel it, be with it, be in it, recognize that it doesn't kill you. It makes you stronger, it makes you well, it makes you better. But then see that, oh yeah, I've created this, and oh yes, I see how I have, and I see it's not so bad. And I also now am so excited. I am so excited to see how my life will be with this instead of this.
Yes.
I'm choosing an alternative outcome this time. Rather than being angry now when that happens,
that's right. Yes.
I'll be seeing it as part of something greater that I'm moving toward. So I've got this vision in my mind of something, oh, I can see how I've created that, but I can see how I could create something so much better next time. So putting that vision of what you want to manifest into your current moment and allowing yourself to actually think into your reality what you want to manifest in your life.
Absolutely, because we are the creators of every little thing that is in our reality.
Responsibility. Take responsibility, right?
Yeah, so simple. So simple once we get it. And then we can just go through the motions for the rest of our lives, knowing that we are responsible and that we need to create, and you know, which is a whole other, that to me is like, that's then the next phase, is like when you are so responsible, then you realize, okay, well, I can do anything.
I can do anything. I can heal my disease. I can heal my pain. I can lose my weight. I can heal my relationship. I can make more money. I can change my life. I can see it in my mind. I can see it in my mind's eye. And I can take the actions, the thoughts, words, and actions that I must to bring it into my reality. What do I have to learn? What do I have to study? What do I have to practice? What do I need to improve? What do I need to do exercise-wise, nutritionally? What information do I need to gather? Who do I need to speak to? What do I need to search on the internet? What information do I need to gather? What opportunities do I need to get? By asking yourself the right questions, but by raising your vibration with your food, by raising your vibration with your exercise, by coming into intimate contact with the earth, by inviting the emotional energy up into your life, by interacting positively, emotionally with the relationships in your life, with your career, with your future. You raise up your energy, and your vibration raises up, and your sexual energy raises up, and you invite opportunity, information, and circumstance to come and present itself to you. Healing information, knowledge, opportunity, people, circumstances, and situations will arrive. Your path will unfold in front of you as it should. If your mind and your word and your movement is in alignment with the
Yeah,
loving energy that is within us.
absolutely. And then inevitably, we get propelled into that which we came here to do, because ultimately, why are we doing, what is the purpose of all of this, what is the purpose of healing, of losing the weight, of it's actually so that we simply can self-actualize, which means living our purpose,
Being us,
being us, yes,
shining our light,
yeah,
the light that is within us is coming out and being expressed fully, right? And
yeah,
that's that kundalini energy rising up. That's that tantric energy coming up. That's the pranic life force. That is the energy of love. That is chi. That is, what is most distinctly you. That is, loving yourself. That is being with God within you, shining your light.
and to then have that be a complete fit in the world. So not only do you get to shine your light, but you shining your light serves everyone.
That other people are inspired by that light.
Yes, whatever that is. It's like if you're meant to be a beautiful dressmaker and that gives you so much joy, well, that joy will give somebody else joy through the dresses that you make. And if you are, and so it goes. And so whatever you're meant to be doing, it's like, do it, shine as bright as you can possibly shine, because that is not just going to feed you, it's going to feed the world. It's the way that you can feed the world the best way.
I can't believe how, it's been 14 or 15 or 16 months. I don't know how long it's been. We haven't spoken. We've had minimal dialogue. You're in South Africa and I'm in Toronto, Canada. And, still we're arriving at the same place.
Yes,
It's so magical. It's so incredible. And it just shows you the power of the collective,
absolutely.
the power of God, the universal energy, the light, the loving energy that we're all in contact with and we all have available to us. And, we're running out of time, but I do want to touch on one extra thing with you, just
Yes,
because it's been very powerfully active in my life. Just so recently, this weekend, I believe I passed a parasite.
woohoo.
So, I mean, you must have come across, in your work, candida, yeast, parasites, a lot of what is bothering us
Yeah,
is parasitic, like an entity of some other kind is within us, a yeast, a fermentation. There's something living within us that shouldn't be. It's sharing our space and it's taking our energy and our joy. It's blocking ourselves emotionally. It's suppressing us, and we've got to get it out.
yes. Well, I mean, I always say it's important to know that the parasites and fungi and all of that, candida, they're there for a reason. So when people say, oh, let's go and kill candida, let's go and kill the parasites, I'm going to kill them all. Well, hang on. That, sure, you can go after them, but if you don't change your internal terrain, as we know, then killing the parasites or killing candida alone is not going to do it. You need to change your internal terrain, and then as it's happening to you, automatically these internal parasites, that are there to actually help clean up the mess that you created. So they're helping. They're not the bad guys, you know, and if they're in excess, it's because you have a lot of waste inside of you that they need to clean up. And so thank you, parasites and candida, for helping. So that's the first point. The second point is it takes time, as you are seeing, you know, and that is also, I mean, that is the biggest mind-blowing part of this journey, because people, you know, would look at you and go like, oh my God, I mean, you look like the healthiest man alive, and, you know, you've done so much work, and I mean, the way that you live, most people would never do it. And yet, same thing for me. You know my work is not done. I'm not done. I've been doing this for 5 years and intensely for 2.5 years. I'm not done.
It goes on.
It goes on and on and on. And why? Because, well, we've been living. I mean, for me, you know, I started this journey when I was 39 years old. So 39 years of eating shit.
Yes.
So it looked like good shit.
Yes.
You know, and it was considered clean shit and all of that. But
yes,
waste nonetheless, or waste creating, you know, and that is where this needs to be a lifestyle. And the other interesting thing about the parasites, you know, as you mentioned, the moods and you know, these energies, the entities that then live in us and they take from us. But it's not because, you know, like there's some monsters or whatever. They obviously are lower consciousness. They are, you know, very low consciousness.
Lower vibration, yes.
Lower vibration. And that, in a sense, just as the food, it heavies us. Mm-hmm. And because they are living and breathing and pooping and, you know, so forth in our system.
Yes.
When they leave us, I mean, I once had an amazing experience, and maybe after my second or in my second fast or whatever, and in between there, like all of a sudden I started feeling really bad, like a zombie. I felt so zombied out for like 2 days. I was in a mood. Nothing could lift me. I was like, oh my God, what's happening? And then I went and I did an enema, and as I sat on a toilet and this mucoid plaque slithered out of me like a snake, I immediately, it was like a split second later, I was back. My whole mood shifted, my energy shifted. It was so radical. And I knew before even checking that there was a parasite in there. And then I checked, because that's what we do, right? We fish around and we look around. And then I called my kids and you know, I called the whole family into the bathroom. I'm like, oh my God. And there was like this long, it was a long strand of mucus. And we know that inside of the mucus is where a lot of the parasites live, because the reality is people always think these worms and parasites are like these ginormous things. They're microscopic, but they live inside the mucus that we release, you know. So it's not always these long worms that we tend to kind of see so famously in you know, some of the sites, but the parasites still live inside the mucus, and that's what they create. They create toxic emotions, toxic mind states, which that's why then also we call candida consciousness, which is this level of consciousness where you feel apathetic with life, and it's all about just superficial taking, consuming, and you can't actually even go into the depth of your beingness. But that's because you are riddled with candida, and so you are kept kind of there, you know.
So we stay stuck in our space because we can't psychologically come out of it. Our energy is, our thought process is low vibration. We create low energy thought, and we pull more low energy circumstance in our life, and we see reoccurring negative things happening to us. We see reoccurring relationships, poor choice relationships. We see reoccurring chaotic events in our life, things being repeated to ourselves again and again and again. Great signals, great symptoms that something is wrong inside of you energetically. Could be yeast, could be parasite, could be just nutritional habit and behavior, could be poor
Mm-hmm.
mindset, could need a change of mindset, could be nutritional, could be thought, could be word, but you can heal it all
Absolutely.
naturally by moving through a process, an organized system or method to bring yourself back to your best human self.
Yeah, you can. I mean, I always say it's a little bit like an exorcism.
It's just like an exorcism, right? Remove that spirit. It's as if you're removing a spirit energy. It's a spirit within you, or
It is.
some sort of thought energy, a thought you're plucking out of there, or a spiritual energy you're pulling out of there, or an actual yeast or a candida or a being that's actually in there within you. Whatever it is, it can be
Yeah,
taken out. It can be removed, right?
can release, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm a different person.
You've
I
transmuted
can't
the
even
energy.
think those old thoughts. So it seems, I mean, that is where, to me, that is where we tap into the miracle that we are, period. You know, you want to experience yourself as a miracle, clean yourself out, as within, so without.
Transmute that negative energy, transmute it all up into light energy, connect with your light energy, bring
Yeah.
yourself back to your very best. So wonderful to speak with you today.
Thank you, John. And
So
I'm sure
wonderful.
we're gonna, where I can envision us doing a beautiful retreat.
I want to do a retreat with you. I'm trying to put together my very first retreat in Costa
Awesome.
Rica,
Oh, yes.
in March.
Fantastic. We're going to be in Costa Rica in September. But we'll definitely, yeah, we'll speak, because I can see a beautiful, something that's really built around rebuilding your body, because in many ways that is, you know, your forte is creating, sculpting the body. And what do we do after detox? You know, because detox is only one part of the game. But for me, what's becoming interesting is like, okay, now I want to become strong. I want to rebuild this body, you know, from the real goodness. So yeah, we'll connect on that one and have like a wild adventure somewhere.
I love it. I want to do something with you. I want to do more with you for sure. Wonderful to speak with you. So
Thank,
glad that we connected again. Thanks so much, Alexandra.
thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.